Do you draw pictures? A book by Becki Lee. Becki, thank you for taking the time and for sharing a sneak peek of your book with us. Can you tell us what this book is about, please?
Sure. It is a poetry book for young kids, maybe age 4 to 8-ish. And it's really just a very basic introduction to the concepts of copyright, trademark, and patents. It's not very complicated. I don't get into nuance or exceptions. It's just lets kids know what copyright is, what it protects, what trademarks are, what patents are, and kind of the purpose of intellectual property and how it can help you monetize what you're good at: writing, singing, inventing, etc.
It's so interesting. I'm actually fascinated by children's books, and like, what triggered this idea for you?
I had already started to introduce trademarks to my son from a very young age. So he sees the circle R around town on signs or on packaging, and he says, "Mommy, Mommy, it's a trademark." And he kind of understands what they're for. And so as I'm reading to my kids every night, I've got these cool poetry books and the kids love them. They want to hear them over and over again. And I just thought, with all of the misinformation that's out there in pop culture and the media about copyrights and trademarks especially, it would be good to just introduce these concepts to kids so that they can start to understand them before they ever need to understand them, so that it's part of their everyday language.
From what I understand, you have two kids. One is 2 and one is 4. Would you say that they understand the difference between a copyright, trademark, and patent at this point?
My 2-year-old definitely does not. Copyright, I haven't really talked to my 4-year-old about yet, but I do think he understands trademarks, at least to the extent that he knows it's the name of a store or a product or something like that. So he'll see, for example, the Target sign or the Chick-fil-A sign or whatever, and he'll say, "Mommy, there's the trademark for the restaurant." So he does understand it pretty well, I think.
You're training him pretty young to come to the mommy's footsteps.
My son says he wants to be an artist, and I want him to grow up knowing that that is a job and that you can work hard and make money and make a living being an artist. So that's kind of what this book is for, to let young kids know that there are these other ways to make money. You don't have to have the traditional jobs that you hear about, fireman, policeman, lawyer, doctor, etc.
Did you use this book on them to give them that understanding, or would you say you used a different means to give that?
Not yet. Yeah, I haven't. I have read the book to my son a couple of times just to see what he thought of it, and I showed him the pictures once those were ready. And I can't go without thanking my friend Walter Jakowski, who did the illustrations. So I did read him the book a few times, but I started teaching him about trademarks a long time ago before he could have had any concept of what it was, just because I was always thinking about it and talking about it at home. And so, I would point it out on the takeout box or whatever. And I just told him what it was, and then he started to recognize it. So I will probably, I'm sure I will read this book to them more in the future. But so far I haven't read it to them regularly at bedtime.
So dealing with patents, maybe life science patents, like there are certain things called clinical trials. Did you do that for this book? Like for a children's book, did you do that trial to, check, hey, do they understand? Did we test these 4 to 8-year-old kids?
No, I didn't do anything like that. And I'm not a patent attorney, for what it's worth, but I did read it to him to see what his reaction would be. And he liked it. He has a short attention span. So I think he liked it. I hope he liked it. But I just thought I more shared it with parent friends to see if they liked it, because we're the ones who will have to read it over and over and over again, hopefully at bedtime.
What age were you when you learned about IP and really understood it, if you remember?
I don't remember exactly when I first heard about any kind of intellectual property, but I do remember when I first had to deal with it. And that was when I was in my mid-20s. I started my own PR firm, mostly working with independent bands and record labels. And copyright and trademark issues were coming up all the time. And I also needed to decide for myself if it was worth filing a federal trademark application. And so I researched it to death as much as I could back then and kind of had an understanding of it. And then as I worked a few more years in the music industry, especially copyright issues were coming up all the time. So that was my first real memory of knowing anything about intellectual property.
So will there be a sequel for older children? Like what are the hopes for this book?
Yes, hopefully we will write something for older children. It would have to be something other than just a simple poem. So I think we would try to put it into a story that kids could relate to. We also want to cover other legal issues that kids are going to run into as they grow up. So we're hoping to have a whole Little Gavels series that addresses legal issues and introduces very basic concepts to kids at a young age.
And this will be released on October 1st, and currently there's links to pre-order on an ebook. So what is the next play? Like, it sounds like there may be a whole series coming up. Do you plan on maybe getting into schools as well and having this as part of the school curriculum?
I mean, that would be very cool. That's really far down the road, though. And if I've learned one thing from the pandemic, it's not to plan too far ahead. So, yes, I would love for these books to end up in libraries, and whether that's a public library or a school library or any other place that kids can digest this information. So yeah, that would be awesome. We don't have any concrete plans. This started off just as a passion project, and I thought we'll put it out and maybe my friends and family will buy it and then it'll be fun, and I'll check that box. And so if it goes wider than that, that would be wonderful.